Good afternoon, everyone. The Delaware County Commissioner meeting, May 24, 2021, is back in session. I welcome everyone to the viewing for the consideration of the Buell number 542 Watershed Drainage Improvement Facility, or petition. Today's viewing of the proposed improvement area is taking place at the office of the Board of County Commissioners with the use of video technology. I'm Gary Merrill, President of the Board. To my left is Commissioner Barb Lewis, Vice President, and to my right is fellow Commissioner Jeff Benton. And with that, I'm going to go over a few of the observations which will prepare everyone for the meeting. For the health, safety, and well-being of county residents, public participation in this viewing will be on virtual means. Over the last year, we've conducted several meetings in this manner. We've learned from our experiences, and they tended recently to go without any issues whatsoever. But we ask for your patience as we work together during the viewing, just in case something were to happen. As an overview of what will happen today, a video will be available to gain an overview of the project limits and specific areas. I stress, no testimony or decisions are made here at this viewing. This is simply a way for the board to become familiar with the area to better prepare us for the first hearing, which will be on October the 7th, 2021 at 10 o'clock in the morning in this location. We're going to hear a report from the engineer's office on the petition, and it is also the time for testimony for or against the petition on October the 7th. When it is time for landowners to point out the drainage concerns in the area, we will work our way through the participants on the Zoom platform. Your line connection will be unmuted, and you will be asked to identify yourself. And as a reminder, this is not for testimony, it's simply to point out what you think we need to see and be familiar with when we get back together on October 7th. If you're part of the Zoom virtual hearing, you're not required to participate, but you may choose to do so when asked. If you don't have a desire to participate, simply express that and we will move to the next person. And now I will turn the proceedings over to Brett Bacon from Soil and Water Conservation District. Brett.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Brett Bacon, Soil and Water Conservation. We're going to show two separate videos today. This project has two distinct legs. It was not possible to capture them in one video. So the first video that we're going to start with will show what I'll classify the main leg of the project. It's going to begin at South 3Bs and K Road, heading upstream and ending at Interstate 71. So I will point out some things as we go here. You ready, Sarah?
Yes.
Okay. So that's South 3Bs and K Road there. You can see the channel as we fly upstream here. And the channel at this point is
south to north?
This is going west to east.
West to east.
Yes.
Okay.
The channel here is mostly open ditch. And as we move upstream here, we'll transition more to a surface drain and tile characteristic. That's Cheshire Road to the left side of the screen. You can see by this point we have transitioned out of the open channel to surface drain and tile. And you can basically pick out the flow path there as it comes through these farm fields. The lighter streak there in the field. And then you can see the road culvert underneath I-71 there. Drainage from I-71 comes underneath the highway, and I'll say the normal low flow of the culvert, which is pretty consistent, is going through the subsurface drain there and not really down through the field. And then the high flow events would go down through the field and on downstream. So,
when was that video taken, Brett?
April 7th.
Oh, okay.
And then the second video is going to show, I'll let Sarah get it queued up here. We're showing, starting basically at the junction with the main channel. This would be a lateral channel or surface drain and tile, and it's running primarily on the north side of Cheshire Road, pretty much running parallel to the road at this point, paralleling the approach to the highway overpass, and then it's going to turn and run parallel going to the north or to the left as we're looking at it along I-71. And it will terminate at another culvert crossing under I-71 upstream here. We're now flying south to north. And primarily the concern on this is surface grading, water getting out of the 71 road ditches, and deterioration of the subsurface drain.
So the culvert was before you got to the wooded area, or?
It's kind of there in the brushy, yeah, before you get to the woods, it's just south of that, where you can kind of see the brushy, marshy area on the interstate.
Do either commissioner have any questions for Scott?
No, thank you.
Commissioner Benton?
Mm-mm.
Okay, we have no questions apparently at this time. So, Scott, you have anything you need to add, or?
Brett.
I'm sorry. My apologies. Thanks
That's
for
okay.
correcting me. You're too polite. You should have corrected me earlier. I apologize. Do you have anything else to add?
No.
I guess, Sarah?
We have 25 on the call.
Okay. Again, we're going to now go to the calls, and again, no testimony, just things you want to point out that you think we should know, and feel no obligation if you just want to see how this process goes and how it fits into the whole process, that's fine. And Sarah, will just let Sarah know your preference, and if you want to speak, she'll get you in touch with all of us. Sarah?
Josh Osborne.
I'm just here for educational purposes, thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
The next one is identified as 624142.
Okay, ask one more time and then move on.
624142. If you'd like to speak, could you unmute yourself?
Okay,
Thank you.
hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I don't really have any questions, actually, we're just here for educational purposes also.
Thank you. Brian Flores.
No questions here.
Thank you, Brian.
Brian Hodge.
My question is, on the rear of my property, it was showing that was going to be affected. I'm just curious what the plan is for the area adjacent to my property. And I live on Atherton Place.
We don't start any engineering on projects like this under this section of the ORC until after we would get through a first hearing. So I can't provide an answer to that at this time. Would be something we would get into if we got into the survey and engineering phase.
Okay, thank you.
The next is Jay
Thank you, Brian.
Schultz.
Dan who?
Jay Schultz.
Jay Schultz, okay.
I'm just here for educational purposes.
Thank you. Jackie Buell.
Yeah, so Larry and Jenny are sitting here. Dad has hearing issues, and anytime that the folks at the front desk are talking, all we hear is a bunch of reverberation from them. So that's what Dad hears. I guess I'd like to clarify early on that we didn't have the same magnitude of drainage issues until all the housing development went in across the freeway. And I believe I'm speaking for everybody. The water running from north to south now is an incredible flood compared to what it used to be. And that's part of the impetus in trying to put this together to see if it might help everybody get rid of some water. There have been different things built through time that have changed the flow of water. And I guess it would be good to, just to have that looked at, that's where
Okay.
we're at. Yeah?
And your name is Jackie?
The big problem is that downstream from my property, the tile has not been maintained. And water at the present time stands at least 18 inches above my drain tile. So my tile stands full and causes a big blowout of tile every spring. So nobody wants to maintain the tile or the ditch on the water flow between my place and 3B's and K.
Okay,
So the only alternative I had was to petition to try to get that ditch straightened out so the water will flow.
and that's
But,
the,
it's gonna help everybody that's, implicated in this.
thank you, sir. And that's the purpose of this whole process, is one, to view it today, and then the first hearing will get into the details. So thank you very much.
Is that everyone who was to speak there?
Lisa, did you want to say anything?
Well, that ditch was petitioned at some time evidently, it wouldn't have a Buell number on it, but it was never maintained. Thank you.
That's Mr. Buell. That's Mr. Buell.
Next is Jessica Delaney. Ms. Delaney?
Yes, sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes,
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I couldn't quite hear the response to the gentleman that asked about the effects of his property. I am a resident of Cheshire Woods on the other side of the freeway, and based on the video and talk discussion about the drainage there, I don't quite understand how this affects the Cheshire Woods neighborhood. And when it comes to, us having to pay a portion of that, I do feel for Mr. Buell and his family, and I understand, but I'm not seeing how it's going to positively impact our community. And I wasn't sure if you could answer that now or if that was for the later hearing.
I think Brett can give you a general answer, but we won't get into specifics, but go ahead, Brett.
So as I stated to the previous question, from an engineering standpoint, we don't do any kind of project proposal or detailed engineering plans until we get past the first hearing on projects like this. But in a general sense, to answer the question of why the properties on the east side of I-71 have been notified and are considered part of the project at this point is the section of state law that covers or governs these projects is very specific in that if water exits a property and enters a project constructed under this section of the code, the state law requires us to consider them as benefited by the project, and thus they would have a financial stake in the project. Water from those subdivisions that we've identified through our mapping process for this stage of the project would indicate, and we also have engineering plans for those subdivisions to indicate that the stormwater drainage from those properties enters the retention ponds for those properties and then discharges under I-71 and enters the Buell improvement or proposed improvement.
Okay, so all of the surveying and all that will be done sometime between now and the next meeting then, did I understand that clearly?
No, the next meeting that will be held is the first hearing of the project, and at that point, the commissioners will make a decision whether to move forward or not. If they move forward at that point, they are basically authorizing the survey and design phase of a project. And then we would have a subsequent second hearing on the project at some point in the future where we would have all those final details, everything necessary to make a final decision.
Okay, thank you so much. It's a little difficult to hear you, but I think I got it. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Jessica.
Justin Schultz.
Hello, similar to most, just here for educational purposes, trying to get a little bit better grasp on what's going on. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Kelly and Debbie?
Same with us, just looking to get more information.
Thank you. Marissa Smith?
Just listening, thank you.
Thank you. Michael Carr?
Hi, thanks. Mainly just listening in here too, but I am curious on the issue with the ditch itself there not either having been maintained or it wasn't sufficient enough once they've added all these other buildings and stuff on the other side of the freeway. Did the county look into this at all? Because this seems like I live right next to the mule, so I see this water issue they have all the time. And I'm slightly affected by it as well because of the amount of water that's in the area. As all these things have gone up, this has just gotten progressively worse over time. I'm just curious as to whether the commission decided that this is something to look at, or is this something that's just been come to a head because the Buell's brought it forward, or has this been on the planning stages for a while?
So the project was originally petitioned under this section of the code, and I'll have information at the first hearing as to when that occurred. But it occurred prior to 1957 when the concept of drainage maintenance was enacted by the state legislature. So at that point in time, or I'll say prior to 1957 when these projects were constructed, they were left to the individual landowners to maintain. The subdivisions that are upstream, or the developments that are upstream of this drainage infrastructure, have met the standards for county development through the county engineer's office. But they are upstream and thus have the right to drain down through this area. As long as their design has met those standards, it's left to each individual landowner, absent of this petition process, to maintain that drainage infrastructure. And then the state law provides provides landowners the opportunity to file this petition to the county commissioners to seek these drainage improvements. And I think that's why you see the provision in state law that all the lands that drain into them are subject or have an obligation to fund the projects. The county has no ability outside of this petition process to enact drainage improvements on private property. I hope that answered the question.
Was that helpful?
Yeah, that does help. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Paul Pennick?
No questions.
Thank you. Shane Ruland?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I just had a question about, so if it moves through on October 7th at this first hearing, it sounds like then at that point there would be surveying done, a proposal put forward. Once there is a proposal, what are the next steps? Like, does that ultimately end up put up for a vote among the residents, or how is that handled as far as moving forward on a proposal?
So yes, you are correct in that if the commissioners approve the project on October 7th, we would develop detailed engineering plans, schedule of assessments, all the necessary information to consider the project. We would then present that back to the county commissioners, and they will schedule a second or final hearing. You would be notified of that second or final hearing in the same manner that you were notified of this hearing. That mailing would contain your proposed cost or share of the project, and then at that final hearing, you would once again be offered the opportunity to testify to the county commissioners for or against a project, and then the three county commissioners would be they're the quasi-judicial body that sits in judgment of the project. So it would be the county commissioners taking a vote as to whether to proceed at that point, basing their decision largely on the testimony they would receive from the landowners.
And one of the criteria is public good, and does the benefits exceed the cost of the project?
Yes, the law specifies 3 tests the county commissioners are to weigh, and those are: is the project necessary, is it conducive to the public welfare, and do the benefits outweigh the costs?
And those are the criteria under which we will make a judgment by law.
And also, would the costs be based on acreage or appraised value of the property, or would it depend on the property related to wherever the drainage issue is?
We use three factors in formulating the schedule of assessments, and those would be acres benefited, just the amount of ground that drains into the project, the percentage use of the project, so further upstream you are, the higher that percentage would be, and then the land use of the particular acres benefited.
Thank you, that's all I have.
Thank you.
Next is Stephanie.
Educational.
Thank you. Tony Nickel.
All of my questions have been answered.
Thank you, Tony.
Vic Citro. He says no microphone, but wanted to know if they vote to explore, will you pay for the engineering at least even even if they decide not to complete.
Could you read that again, Sarah?
Yeah, can't hear it.
No microphone, but wanted to know if they vote to explore, will you pay for the engineering at least, even if they decide not to complete?
So I think he's asking, are the engineering costs assessed back to the landowners? That is a decision of the county commissioners, but typically that has been the case, yes. But there are no, let me add into that, there are no costs assessed to the landowners if the project is denied at the first hearing.
And that's because all the costs between the first and second hearing are
Project
much
costs.
more substantive, and that's the reason for that.
Yep.
Okay, does that answer your question? I guess you'll have to type in and answer it.
Yeah.
So,
Yes, thank you.
thank you.
The next is a phone number, 614-435-8344. One more time, 614-435-8344.
Okay, just move on, I suppose.
The next phone number is 614-466-4308.
One more time.
614-466-4308. All right.
Is that everyone?
There are two, but they do not have, they would have to send me a chat to speak. Jerry? Looks like-
I'm here, this is.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Did he wish to, he say, did he wish to speak or not?
No, I think he was just listening.
Okay.
Correct me if I was wrong, Mr. Shy?
Yes,
Thank
just
you.
listen.
Sorry.
Thank you.
The next is capital LIS, iPad. She is chatting that you could not hear me, so I'm gonna let her know we cannot.
No response?
Not yet. She's the one right here.
Uh,
She might have gone away.
We'll give it just a couple more seconds. While we're waiting to see if there is a response, Is there anyone that has anything additional to share with us? Or do you feel like you've let us know as much as we need to know at this point in time? Just want to make sure we don't exclude any comments that anyone feels is important.
The last guest let us know she could not get audio to go ahead.
Okay, so I'm hearing nothing but silence, so I'm interpreting that everybody feels comfortable with what they've shared. Commissioners, is there anything else you have?
No?
I have a question out of curiosity. This is a unique, because it's over highway, a federal highway. Typically, counties and townships are prorated their fair charge, they're part of the charges. I think I may know the answer to this question, but is there a charge to the federal highway system?
Not to the feds, but ODOT would be involved in this.
ODOT
Yes.
would pay their portion?
Yes,
Okay.
ODOT is no different than the county or townships in the eyes of 6131. So yes, the Department of Transportation, the state, would have an assessment if we move
Since this
forward.
went over a highway, which is highly unusual, I was just curious.
Right. We've had a couple that have involved, well, one that springs to mind that we had I-71 acreage involved. So, yeah, it does add a little bit of a wrinkle from our project plans review. Normally, we have to just send our plans to the Department of Natural Resources, but because there's a state highway involved in this one, we have to also have them reviewed by the Department of Transportation as well. That would be the same if it was 71 or 42 or any state highway.
Thank you very much. One last time, does anyone have anything to add, or we'll look forward to seeing all those of interested parties on October 7th this year here in this building. I thank you for your time and your help. This helps us better acquaint ourselves with the process. With nothing else to add from the commissioners, Brett, do you have anything to add? With that, this viewing is now completed, and the county commissioners